Okay, stuff you got to know before you go buying that next home. Last thing you want to do is buy a lemon. So you can always hire a home inspector, and you should. But if you can sort out some of those homes that are problems, and in this case, in this segment, we're going to talk about lead and carbon monoxide. If you've got lead-based paint, HUD thinks that's a problem. And they have different restrictions and requirements on a home that's old enough to have lead. So if that's going to be grief for you, just like some of these other things we're going to be talking about in this course, then better to know up front rather than have your home inspector hopefully be smart enough to tell you that that's a problem and protect you from that. In the lead category, so there's a different variety of lead sources. One of them is lead plumbing. That's been pretty much taken care of, both by EPA's new requirements, well, new 20 years ago, for water chemistry. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that one because that one's pretty much been solved, and I really don't see lead plumbing in residential homes anymore. That's really unusual. It's been really unusual for a number of decades now, so that's less of an issue. What you're going to find, though, back up until about 1978, lead in paint it made a good paint, and it was an upper end paint. So as people were painting their home, sometimes back in the 70s, boy, the 70s, they were just full of great ideas. They had lead, they used asbestos, they had aluminum wiring. I used to have a 70s phobia, and lead is one of the reasons why I did. But the idea with lead is that maybe you've got a peeling paint now. And presumably, since 1978, it's been painted over at least a couple of times. So as the paint is peeling, that's going to expose that original lead. And if you get that peeling paint that maybe drops into the soil, now the lead is in the soil. Why is that a problem? I happen to know a child who is much older now, but when she was little, let's say 2 or 3 years old, for whatever reason, she loved to eat dirt. And so I'd be out working in the front yard, she'd be 10 feet away from me, turn my back, next thing I know, her mouth is full of soil. And I was in the environmental engineering business at the time, and I knew the history of that clay, and I knew that it didn't have environmental contaminants in it, including including lead. That was 1985 at the time. So that was past the day of when lead-based paint was used. But she'd shovel all this soil in her mouth, and I'm thinking, man, if that had lead, I would have to be concerned about lead ingestion. This is how lead gets into the body. Environmental engineers call that a pathway. So, sometimes it goes through the skin, sometimes it goes through your nose, sometimes it goes through your mouth. Those are all different pathways into the body for environmental contaminants. In the case of lead, it's ingestion through the mouth. So, as we have this lead issue, then, if the lead does get into the system, it can affect brain development. It can affect brain development not only in newborns up to 5 years old, but also in unborn children. So if you're pregnant, or if you think you might be, don't eat the lead-based paint. Don't put it in your salad. Don't chew on the wall. Don't eat the dirt. And you'll probably be okay. If you're me and you're not likely to be pregnant anytime soon, then and your brain is already as developed as it's going to be, then go ahead, eat all the lead you want. Lead-based paint on your salad. I don't know if it's any good or not. Haven't tried it. So that's what lead is all about. It inhibits brain development in unborns and newborns. And 1978, if your home was older than that, you could have a problem. You're going to look for the peeling paint, and you can actually get a lead-based paint tester at places like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. They're little cigarette-shaped guys. They have a salt and an acid in there, and they can let you know if there is lead in that peeling paint or not. Those are $10. They're cheap. So you can do that yourself. Yeah. So as you go looking for homes, and maybe you're looking for homes that might be older than 1978, as you do that, you need to have that on your radar. That's the kind of stuff you need to know before you go buying a home. And I'm Garth Haslam, the Home Medic. Okay, let's do one more. This is wearing out my knees. Is more of a risk than a lot of these other items put together. So I'd like you to pay attention to this one. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas, kind of like radon, only it'll kill you right now. I remember once back in the 80s, I was the poor, just out of college kid. I had a hatchback. I don't know if you remember those, but I had to get a lawnmower from point A to B, and I don't even remember why, but it didn't, so I shoved it in the back of this hatchback. I couldn't get the hatch all the way closed, so I did as well as I could and drove off to parts unknown to take that lawnmower to wherever I could take it to. The carbon monoxide from the exhaust swirled up under that hatch, got into the car, and it affected my entire family. And it was, yes, it was being mixed by other air, but it was enough that it affected every one of us. We all had headaches, and we were all coughing for a while, and that was not awesome. I realized that that in putting that lawnmower in the back of the hatch, I had put my entire family at risk. It's that level of risk. Now, another story to give you a flavor of how bad this can be. I read in the newspaper a number of years ago about an older lady who needed her roof done. And so she contracted out some, she talked to some different contractors, found the cheapest guy because she was on a fixed income. And he showed up, and true to form, he started working on her roof. And he, of course, didn't finish in one day, so he left some tools up there and went home, came back the next day. The next day, he knocks on her door to let her know that he's going to get started again. She doesn't answer. So he bangs louder, and she doesn't answer. And he knows she should be in there, but she's not answering. So eventually he calls the cops. They break in the door. They find her there. She's dead. And the reason she's dead is that he left his tools on top of the chimney cap, and the carbon monoxide that should have escaped through the chimney was blocked. This is so sad. And so she died, carbon monoxide poisoning. One of the costs of hiring the cheap guy, I guess. But that is how quickly it can kill you. I've done inspections where they put in a new wood-burning fireplace, and they forgot to attach that to the flue. So all of that wood-burning exhaust would have just gone into that basement family room. And as I was doing that inspection, I looked at the little girls that were in there. There was 3 little girls, just like my family was at the time. And I'm thinking, this is how they would be found. Only instead of happily watching cartoons that particular day, they would be found in that position, expired. So it's that big a deal. Now, what causes carbon monoxide? Basically anything that has a flame can cause carbon monoxide. Your water heater, your fireplace, your furnace, any of those. If the flue that is supposed to exhaust that contaminated air gets blocked for whatever reason, you and your family are dead. I did an inspection on a very small apartment for some girls that were university students, and the water heater was in its own space without what's called a combustion air source. Combustion air is basically just a pipe from the water heater room to the exterior, and it replaces the air that's leaving. But it didn't have combustion air. And so it was, since that air couldn't leave, it was just going into the room where these girls are. I asked them about it, and they said, yeah, we're having headaches all the time, and we're feeling tired and nausea, and that's carbon monoxide poisoning. These girls, again, you know, one step further in the contamination level, and they would have been statistics. So, bottom line, you've got to make sure that your flues are open, unblocked, and that the contaminated air that needs to leave actually does. And there's replacement air for the air that's leaving. That's huge. You know, nobody wants your family to die. I did another one. Actually, this was a story where the kids, you know, the whole family was feeling bad. So, you know, sick, diarrhea, or not diarrhea, nausea, that sort of thing. And so the parents said, okay, kids, you don't have to go to school today. You're not feeling well. We'll go to work. We'll come home. We'll see how you're doing. The parents, they left. They started feeling better. They came home at 5 o'clock. The kids were sicker. And so they go, okay, we'll take you to the doctor. By the time everybody got to the doctor, they'd been breathing fresh air for 5 or 10 minutes, and they were all feeling fine. This is the kind of stuff you need to have on your radar. Carbon monoxide can kill you, and it needs to be paid close attention to. I've seen where maybe grandpa puts a cover on the chimney cap. I've seen where maybe you get pine trees that get into the chimney, and that can not only block things, but the pine tree can catch on fire, and that becomes its own drama. I've seen where raccoons get into the chimney, and you know, if they die, then you've got a blockage there, and then again, you've got carbon monoxide issues. You don't need any of the above. So, steps you can do. First off, carbon monoxide meter. Now, carbon monoxide, again, is heavier than air, so you want it down low in areas close to flame sources. So you want one in your furnace water heater room. Maybe you've got a gas clothes dryer, you want one there. And if you've got a fireplace, gas or wood or whatever, it would be a good idea to have one there as well. And you can get those so that they talk to each other. They don't have to be hardwired anymore. You can get them so that they're Alexa compatible. And then maybe you can even be at work and you can find out when the kids are building a fire and they didn't open the flue. All it takes is one event like that, and it can turn out very badly. So carbon monoxide detectors, and just take a look occasionally. Make sure that there's no surprises, no blockages, that things are working properly. Have your furnace and water heater looked at. You're supposed to maintain your furnace every year or two anyway, and if you're not comfortable doing those sorts of things, then when you service the furnace, that guy can do that sort of thing. You can have cracks in the burn chamber. That's going to be something for your HVAC guy to find. So, stuff you got to know before you go buying a home. You want to keep your family there and well and alive and happy, and that's how to do it. Protect yourself from carbon monoxide. I'm the home medic.